There's a certain kind of person who can walk into a room and change the temperature instantly. You feel it. The tension, the shift in energy. Maybe it's the way they talk over people, the way they twist your words, or how they always manage to make you feel like you're the problem. They drain your energy, steal your peace, and somehow, no matter how much you try to stay calm, they always pull you into their chaos. We all know someone like that. The difficult one, the manipulator, the critic, the one who hides control behind charm, or hides cruelty behind just being honest. You've tried reasoning, you've tried explaining, you've even tried silence, but somehow they still manage to get under your skin. It's almost like they feed on your reaction. And that's because they do. Here's something most people never tell you. Difficult people don't seek connection. They seek control. Every argument, every guilt trip, every passive-aggressive comment is designed to do one thing: pull you out of your peace and into their storm. Because as long as they can control your reaction, they control your energy. And when you lose your calm, you hand them your power without even realizing it. Think about that for a moment. How many hours of your life have you spent replaying a conversation in your head, trying to figure out what you could have said differently? How many nights have you laid awake, angry, hurt, frustrated, because someone's words got inside your head and stayed there? That's what difficult people do best. They don't just challenge you, they drain you. They make you question yourself, your worth, and your truth. But what if I told you that you could stop them without fighting, without explaining, without proving anything? What if I told you that your peace is not something anyone can take? It's something you give away the moment you react, and that the moment you choose calm over chaos, you take every ounce of power back. Because here's the thing, difficult people only have power when you play their game. They bait you, and when you bite, they win. But when you stop reacting, when you stay grounded, when you learn to read their patterns and protect your boundaries, the game ends. You can't fight fire with fire, but you can make it burn out by taking away the oxygen. And that's what this talk is about. Taking your peace and power back. This isn't about learning how to deal with people who annoy you. It's about mastering the kind of mental and emotional control that no one can shake. It's about learning how to stay centered in the middle of chaos. It's about becoming so grounded in your own energy that no matter what anyone says or does, you remain unshakable. So if you've ever felt manipulated, gaslighted, dismissed, or disrespected, if you've ever felt like someone has taken too much of your time, your confidence, or your calm, this is for you. Because you deserve to walk through life with clarity, not confusion, with strength, not tension, with peace, not pressure. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. How to handle difficult people, protect your energy, and reclaim the power you've been giving away for far too long. Because once you learn how to keep your peace in a world full of chaos, you become untouchable. You said, difficult people aren't just a minor inconvenience, they're emotional disruptors. They can twist a calm conversation into conflict in seconds, and they know exactly which words to use to provoke you. Some of them are loud and obvious, while others operate quietly, subtly, using charm or guilt to pull you in. But no matter their style, they all have one thing in common. They feed on reaction. That's their source of power. The more you react, the stronger they feel. The more you stay composed, the weaker they become. When you deal with a difficult person, you're not just facing a personality problem, you're facing a psychological strategy. These individuals often thrive on chaos because it gives them control. They use manipulation, criticism, and emotional games to create imbalance. Because when you're off balance, you're easier to influence. They get energy from seeing you frustrated, defensive, or uncertain. They interpret your emotional reaction as evidence that they have power over you. And whether they realize it consciously or not, they repeat the pattern because it works. Think about someone who constantly criticizes you, whether it's your decisions, your work, or even your personality. The moment you defend yourself, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly you're on trial, and they're in control. You think you're clarifying your point, but in reality you've taken the bait. That's what they want. Engagement, attention, emotional energy. They don't care if it's positive or negative. They just want to be the center of it. When you get angry, they win. When you justify, they win. When you try to fix the situation, they win again. It's not about fairness to them. It's about power. Difficult people often come from a place of deep insecurity. They can't regulate their emotions, so they try to regulate everyone else's. They thrive when people around them feel uncertain or small, because that makes them feel big. It's why they always have to win every argument, why they twist stories to make themselves look right, and why they often play the victim when they're called out. It's not about the truth, it's about control. They know that emotions are contagious. So they push buttons, use sarcasm, guilt, or anger, whatever it takes to pull you into their energy. If they're angry and can make you angry too, then they've succeeded. Because now you're both in the same emotional space and they feel in charge of it. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do when dealing with a difficult person is to refuse to react. Not with silence, that's resentful or passive-aggressive, but with true composure, the kind that comes from understanding the game being played. You have to learn to observe instead of absorb. When you see their patterns clearly, you can respond strategically instead of emotionally. Imagine this. Someone starts raising their voice, accusing you of something you didn't do. Instead of defending yourself, you breathe. You don't mirror their tone. You lower yours. You stay calm. You let them speak. Not because they're right, but because you're not giving them the reaction they want. What happens next? They'll either escalate because they're desperate to get a rise out of you, or they'll deflate because they can't feed off your calm. Either way, you've already won. You've kept your peace, and you've kept your power. It's not easy to do this. It takes discipline, self-awareness, and emotional control. It requires you to manage your own ego, because difficult people are masters at making things personal. They'll insult you, undermine you, or attack your character just to make you react. But the truth is, none of it is really about you. It's about their need to feel significant. They create drama because it makes them feel alive. And the more attention you give to that drama, the more you validate their behavior. Here's the hard truth. You can't change a difficult person by being more understanding, patient, or kind. That's not your job, and it won't work. They don't want resolution, they want control. The more you try to please them, the more you teach them that their behavior works. The moment you stop reacting, you disrupt that pattern. You remove the fuel from their fire. This doesn't mean you stop caring or become cold-hearted. It means you become strategic with your energy. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop arguing with people who twist your words. You stop overgiving to people who only take. You start valuing your peace more than their approval. When you stay calm around a difficult person, you're not being weak. You're being powerful. Because it takes strength to hold your composure when someone's trying to shake it. It takes discipline to choose silence over shouting, detachment over defense. But the more you practice it, the stronger you become. You start realizing that their chaos doesn't belong to you. Their storm doesn't need to become your storm. And something amazing happens when you stop feeding their need for reaction. They lose interest. They either back off or move on to someone else who will play their game. That's not your loss. That's your freedom. The moment you decide that your peace is more valuable than being right, you take control back. People will always try to test your calm, coworkers, family, even strangers. But you have to remember your reaction is your responsibility. No one can make you feel anything without your permission. The person who can stay calm when everyone else loses control holds the real power. That's emotional intelligence. That's mastery. Difficult people may always exist, but how much power they have over you, that's your choice. When you stop reacting, you change the dynamic. You send a clear message. You no longer get to decide how I feel. That's what peace looks like. Not silence, not surrender, but strength. The kind of strength that says you don't get to pull me into your chaos anymore. You can stay there if you want, but I'm choosing calm. And once you learn how to do that, once you master your reaction, no one, no matter how difficult, can touch your inner stability again. Because the truth is, the most powerful person in any situation isn't the loudest, the most aggressive, or the one who wins the argument. It's the one who doesn't need to argue at all. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It's not indifference. It's control. It's the quiet, unshakable discipline of staying centered when everything around you is trying to pull you off balance. It's the ability to protect your energy without explaining it, to stay calm in the presence of chaos, and to think clearly when everyone else is reacting. And when you learn to master it, you'll realize something powerful. You don't need to control other people to feel at peace. You only need to control yourself. Most of the stress we experience in life doesn't come from events themselves. It comes from our reactions to them. Difficult people thrive on emotional entanglement. They want you defensive, angry, confused, and emotionally charged because it makes them feel powerful. Every time you react impulsively, they gain control of the moment. But when you detach, when you choose composure over chaos, you strip them of that power. You stop playing their game. Detachment is not about not feeling. It's about feeling deeply, but choosing not to be controlled by those feelings. You can acknowledge anger without expressing it destructively. You can feel hurt without surrendering to bitterness. You can see manipulation without being drawn into it. Detachment gives you the space to respond, not react. It's the emotional pause between stimulus and response. And in that pause lies your power. When you're emotionally attached to an outcome, a person, or a reaction, you lose objectivity. You start taking everything personally. Every comment feels like an attack. Every disagreement feels like rejection. That's exactly what difficult people want, to make you take things personally so they can manipulate your emotions. But emotional detachment breaks that cycle. It teaches you to step back and observe. You start to see behavior patterns instead of taking the bait. You begin to realize that what people say and do is more about them than it ever was about you. The moment you stop needing people to behave a certain way, for you to feel calm, you become free. That's emotional independence. You're no longer waiting for others to change, apologize, or understand. You start focusing on your own emotional state because that's the only thing you can actually control. Imagine being in a heated argument. Voices are raised, accusations are thrown, tension fills the air. Most people would react, defending themselves, explaining, retaliating. But someone who's emotionally detached takes a breath. They don't interrupt. They don't match energy. They stay grounded. They watch, listen, and process. When they do speak, they choose words carefully, not emotionally. They speak with precision, not passion. The result? The other person eventually burns out because chaos cannot survive in the presence of calm. This doesn't mean you suppress emotion. Suppression is unhealthy. It means you process it privately before you express it publicly. You learn to manage your internal state so that external events don't dictate your behavior. Think of it like being a pilot in turbulence. The pilot doesn't start panicking because the plane is shaking. They check their instruments, adjust course, and stay calm because panic doesn't make the plane safer. Control does. That's what emotional detachment is. Internal control in external turbulence. One of the most powerful tools for this kind of detachment is awareness. You can't control what you're not aware of. When you start noticing your emotional triggers, the specific words, tones, or behaviors that cause you to react, you begin to take control of them. Awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you freedom. You can decide, I'm not giving my peace to this. There's also the power of silence. Difficult people expect pushback. They expect defense. When you stay calm and silent, instead of feeding into the argument, you confuse them. They can't read you. And when they can't read you, they can't manipulate you. Silence is one of the most powerful responses to aggression because it removes the fuel from the fire. You're not ignoring them. You're controlling the frame. You're communicating through composure that you are not available for emotional games. Emotional detachment also means learning not to personalize rejection or criticism. Not every negative comment deserves your energy. People project their insecurities, fears, and frustrations onto others. When someone attacks you verbally, it's often a reflection of their inner conflict, not your worth. Once you understand that, you stop internalizing it. You see their behavior for what it is, information, not truth. But detachment doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice, discipline, and self-awareness. It means catching yourself in the moment when you feel that rise of irritation, when your ego wants to prove something, when you want to fire back and choosing not to. That choice, repeated over and over, rewires your mind. You start realizing that calmness is your greatest weapon. The calmer you become, the clearer you think. The clearer you think, the better you respond. And the better you respond, the more power you regain. In a world where everyone is reactive, emotional detachment becomes your competitive edge. You stop being dragged into drama. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to fix other people. Instead, you become an observer, reading energy, understanding motives, choosing your words with intention. And because you're not reacting emotionally, you start noticing things others miss. You can see manipulation forming before it happens. You can spot dishonesty by the inconsistency of tone. You develop what feels like intuition, but it's really emotional clarity. You'll also notice that the more detached you become, the more peaceful your life gets. You no longer carry the weight of every argument or insult. You stop overthinking what someone meant by their tone or text. You learn to let go faster. You begin to protect your energy the way you protect your physical space. You become emotionally self-sufficient. And that's when you truly take back your power. Not by controlling others, but by mastering yourself. Because the person who controls their emotions controls the situation. The one who remains calm, even when provoked, becomes unshakable. People sense that strength. They can feel that they can't manipulate you. They start adjusting their behavior around your energy, not the other way around. There's a certain kind of quiet dominance that comes with emotional detachment. It's not aggressive, it's not loud, it's steady, it's presence. You walk into a room and people feel that nothing can rattle you. They feel the difference between someone who's pretending to be calm and someone who is calm. It's magnetic. It's respect without words. So when you're dealing with difficult people, the manipulative, the loud, the controlling, remember this: you don't win by reacting. You win by staying composed. You don't have to control them. You only have to control yourself. Because the one who remains calm holds the real power. And once you've learned that kind of emotional detachment, you'll never lose your peace again. That's what mastery looks like, not the absence of emotion, but the disciplined control of it. Setting boundaries isn't about being mean, selfish, or distant. It's about being clear. It's about deciding what you will and will not allow into your space. It's not about shutting people out. It's about protecting your peace, your time, and your emotional energy. Because when you don't set boundaries, people will take from you until there's nothing left to give, and they'll still ask for more. The truth is, most people who get upset when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited the most when you didn't. Boundaries are not about control. They're about clarity. They tell others how to treat you, how to communicate with you, and what's acceptable in your world. Think of them as invisible guardrails that protect the road of your peace. Without them, people will veer into your lane, cross your limits, and drain your fuel. And the worst part, you'll blame yourself for letting them. We've been conditioned to think that saying no makes us rude, unkind, or inconsiderate. But in reality, saying no is one of the highest forms of self-respect. It's not rejection, it's redirection. A way of telling the world, my energy, my time, and my peace matter too. The people who truly respect you won't be threatened by your boundaries. They'll be inspired by them. Because boundaries are not barriers, they're standards. And standards are how you teach people to value you. The reason so many people struggle with boundaries is guilt. We worry about disappointing others, being misunderstood, or coming off as cold. But guilt is not an indicator that you're doing something wrong. It's an indicator that you're breaking a pattern of people-pleasing. The first time you say no, it feels uncomfortable. The first time you stop explaining yourself, it feels strange. The first time you walk away from a conversation that's going nowhere, it feels unnatural. But that discomfort is not a sign you're doing something bad. It's a sign you're growing. Boundaries are a reflection of emotional maturity. They mean you've stopped expecting others to read your mind or guess your limits. You communicate clearly and calmly. You stop apologizing for protecting yourself. You stop over-explaining your decisions. Because the moment you start explaining, you open the door for negotiation, and healthy boundaries are not up for debate. Let's be honest. People will test your boundaries, especially the ones who are used to crossing them. They'll call you difficult, dramatic, or detached. They'll use guilt, shame, or manipulation to make you back down. But that's not a reflection of your strength. It's a reflection of their discomfort with losing control. When you set boundaries, you take away their power to dictate your emotional world. That's why some people resist, because they can no longer use your empathy as a weakness. Here's the thing about boundaries. They don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to announce them, threaten people, or make a scene. Boundaries can be quiet and firm. A calm "I can't make it tonight," a simple "I'm not comfortable with that," or even silence when someone tries to provoke you. The power is in your consistency. Boundaries that change every time someone pushes against them aren't boundaries, they're suggestions. If you mean it, hold it. And remember, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If someone constantly disrespects your time and you keep showing up, you're teaching them that your time isn't valuable. If someone keeps making hurtful jokes and you laugh it off, you're teaching them that disrespect is acceptable. Boundaries are enforced through behavior, not words. It's not enough to say, "I have boundaries," you have to live them. The strongest people don't fight for boundaries, they embody them. They don't argue, they don't explain, they don't convince. They simply act in alignment with what they will and won't accept. That's why you can feel their energy when they enter a room, grounded, calm, and confident. You know exactly where they stand. That's the power of clarity. People may not always agree with you, but they'll respect you. Setting boundaries also means accepting that not everyone will like you. And that's okay. You're not here to be universally liked. You're here to live authentically. When you stop needing everyone's approval, you start living in peace. The goal isn't to make everyone comfortable with your boundaries. It's to be comfortable enforcing them. And that's what self-respect looks like. The courage to disappoint others in order to remain true to yourself. In professional environments, boundaries are essential. If you're always available, always saying yes, and always overextending yourself, you're teaching others to depend on you at your expense. Boundaries help you operate from strength, not burnout. They allow you to give your best when it's appropriate, not because you're pressured, but because you've chosen to. In relationships, boundaries create respect. Love without boundaries becomes attachment. Friendship without boundaries becomes obligation. Family without boundaries becomes guilt. Boundaries don't separate people. They make connection healthier, because when two people know where they stand, there's no resentment, no confusion, no manipulation, just mutual understanding. It's also important to know that boundaries can evolve. What was acceptable to you 5 years ago may not be acceptable now, and that's okay. Growth means reevaluating your limits and adjusting them to fit who you are today. Don't let people hold you hostage to old versions of yourself. You're allowed to outgrow dynamics that drain you. You're allowed to demand more peace as you become more self-aware. Setting boundaries also requires self-trust. You have to believe that your needs are valid, that your peace matters, and that your time is valuable. Because if you don't believe that, no one else will. You'll keep justifying, apologizing, and compromising until you lose yourself trying to keep everyone else comfortable. But when you truly value yourself, no becomes natural. It stops feeling like rejection and starts feeling like protection. And here's the thing. The people meant to be in your life won't leave because of your boundaries. They'll adjust to them. The ones who walk away were only there to take advantage of your lack of them. Boundaries don't push the right people away. They filter out the wrong ones. So set your limits. Say no when you need to. Walk away when you must. Protect your time, your mind, and your energy. Not out of fear, but out of respect for the person you're becoming. You don't owe anyone an explanation for taking care of yourself. Because peace isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you create. And boundaries are how you build it. They're the invisible lines that say, this is where my peace lives. This is where my power begins. And once you start honoring that space, no one, no matter how demanding, manipulative, or difficult, will ever be able to take it from you again. Boundaries are strength disguised as calm. They don't make you less compassionate. They make your compassion sustainable. They don't make you unkind. They make you honest. The next time you feel that guilt rising after saying no, remember this: you're not being selfish, you're being sovereign. You're protecting the only thing that truly belongs to you, your peace. And there is nothing more powerful than a person who has learned how to protect their peace without apology. Manipulation is one of the most subtle and dangerous forms of control, not because it's loud or obvious, but because it hides behind charm, kindness, and logic. It doesn't always look like aggression or cruelty. Sometimes it comes dressed as concern, as advice, or as guilt wrapped in love. That's what makes it so effective. Manipulation doesn't grab your hand, it slowly pulls at your mind until you start doubting your own instincts. The moment you start questioning what you know to be true, that's when a manipulator has gained access to your power. To recognize manipulation, you first have to understand its goal: control. Manipulators don't want connection. They want compliance. They don't want mutual understanding. They want dominance disguised as understanding. Their power comes from psychological imbalance, making you feel guilty, confused, indebted, or afraid of losing something. And once they plant those emotional seeds, they water them with words that sound reasonable but feel wrong. The most common manipulation tactic is gaslighting, making you question your perception of reality. A manipulator will deny what they said, twist the context, or accuse you of overreacting. They use phrases like, "You're too sensitive," or "That never happened." Over time, you start wondering if you're the problem. That's exactly what they want. Because once you stop trusting yourself, you'll start trusting them to define reality for you. They'll position themselves as the rational one, the voice of reason, while you slowly lose your confidence in your own memory, emotions, and truth. Then there's guilt tripping, one of the manipulator's favorite tools. They'll make you feel responsible for their emotions. They'll say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or "I guess I just care more than you do." They twist kindness into obligation, turning your empathy into a leash. Suddenly you're saying yes to things you don't want to do, not because you want to, but because you feel guilty saying no. That's not compassion, that's coercion. Another tactic is playing the victim. Manipulators will flip every situation to make themselves appear helpless or misunderstood. They'll cry, exaggerate, or use emotional breakdowns to deflect accountability. When you confront them about their behavior, they'll shift the focus. "I can't believe you think I'd do that," or "You're attacking me for no reason." They make you feel like the aggressor even when you're simply standing up for yourself. This emotional inversion confuses you, and that confusion benefits them. Triangulation is another powerful manipulation tactic. This happens when a manipulator brings a third person into the dynamic to create competition or confusion. They might compare you to someone else. "She never treated me like this," or "He understands me better," or they'll say, "Everyone agrees with me," to isolate you and make you feel outnumbered. The goal is to destabilize your confidence and make you seek their approval again. It's not about the truth, it's about power through insecurity. Then there's projection. When a manipulator accuses you of doing the very thing they're doing, if they're lying, they'll accuse you of dishonesty. If they're being selfish, they'll call you self-centered. It's a psychological distraction technique. While you're busy defending yourself, they're hiding their behavior in plain sight. They want you so focused on disproving their accusations that you don't notice what's really happening. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking free from them. Manipulation only works when you're unaware of it. Once you start naming it, you start neutralizing it. Awareness gives you distance, and distance gives you power. The most important thing to understand about manipulation is that it's not always malicious. Some people manipulate unconsciously. It's their learned way of coping with fear, rejection, or insecurity. But whether it's intentional or not, the effect is the same. You feel drained, guilty, or confused after interacting with them. Pay attention to that feeling. If someone consistently leaves you doubting yourself, you're not in a healthy dynamic. You're being psychologically managed. To counter manipulation, you must develop emotional awareness. That means paying attention not just to what people say, but to how you feel when they say it. Words are only half the story. Tone, timing, and intention matter more. If a compliment makes you feel uneasy, there's a reason. If an apology sounds hollow, listen to your gut. Manipulators are experts in emotional camouflage. They know how to sound sincere while pursuing selfish motives. Your instincts will often recognize manipulation before your logic does. The key is to stay grounded in your truth. Manipulators thrive on confusion. They'll try to distort facts, rewrite history, and create emotional noise. But you can anchor yourself by keeping records, mentally or literally. Remember what was said, what was promised, and what actually happened. This helps you separate reality from revision. When you have clarity, you become harder to control. Another way to recognize manipulation is by observing patterns. A single act of dishonesty or guilt tripping might be a mistake, but when it becomes a pattern, when every disagreement turns into guilt or every confrontation turns into blame, you're dealing with manipulation. Manipulators don't change their tactics because those tactics work. They only change when they stop working. When you stop responding to them. The best defense against manipulation is calm detachment. Manipulators feed on emotional response. They want to see you defend, cry, or justify because that means you're still engaged in their game. When you stay calm, use neutral language, and refuse to explain yourself, you take away their leverage. You can say things like, "I see it differently," or "That's your perspective." These phrases shut down manipulation without fueling argument. You're not playing defense anymore. You're standing in clarity. Don't try to expose or outsmart a manipulator. That's a trap. The more you argue, the deeper you get pulled in. Manipulation isn't a debate you can win. It's a cycle you have to exit. Instead of trying to prove their tactics, remove yourself emotionally. Protect your boundaries. Limit access. Remember, you don't owe anyone unlimited access to your attention or energy. Manipulators often sense when they're losing control, and that's when they'll escalate. They might suddenly act kind, apologetic, or affectionate, hoping to pull you back in. This is called hoovering, like a vacuum sucking you back into the dynamic. They'll say, "I miss you," or "Things will be different." But if the pattern hasn't changed, the words mean nothing. Recognize this for what it is, a test of your emotional boundaries. The moment you start recognizing manipulation, you see the world differently. You stop taking everything personally. You stop chasing closure from people who will never give it. You stop explaining yourself to those who twist your words. You start valuing your peace over being understood, and that's where your real power begins. Psychological awareness isn't about becoming paranoid or mistrusting everyone. It's about being conscious. It's about knowing when someone's intentions don't match their words. It's about trusting your intuition and having the courage to act on it. Awareness is protection. Once you learn to see manipulation clearly, you can't unsee it. And that's your advantage, because manipulation only works in the dark. The moment you bring awareness to it, it loses its grip. And when you can look at a manipulator and see through the performance, calmly, without anger, you're no longer their target. You're their mirror. You expose them simply by standing in truth. That's the real art of psychological awareness. Not reacting, not explaining, not absorbing, just seeing. And in that seeing, you reclaim every ounce of peace and power they tried to take. Walking away doesn't always mean slamming doors, cutting ties, or making dramatic exits. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the decision to stop participating in cycles that drain your soul. It's the realization that your peace matters more than your pride, and that staying in chaos doesn't make you strong. It just makes you tired. Reclaiming your peace and power begins the moment you stop chasing explanations, stop trying to prove your worth, and stop needing closure from people who were never capable of giving it. Peace isn't something you find in others. It's something you reclaim within yourself. But to do that, you must first accept one fundamental truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone gets to influence your mood, your energy, or your mindset. You cannot heal in the same environment that keeps breaking you. And you cannot rise while staying attached to what keeps you small. The hardest part of reclaiming peace is not letting go of others. It's letting go of the version of yourself that tolerated too much. When you walk away, you're not running from something, you're returning to yourself. You're saying, I choose me now. You're saying my energy is too valuable to be wasted on conflict. Because the moment you stop engaging with people who thrive on your reaction, they lose their power. Difficult people want you tangled in explanation, anger, or defense. They want to keep you in emotional debt, explaining why you're hurt, why you're leaving, why you're not okay. But peace doesn't explain itself. Peace simply exits. You see, walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that arguing with someone committed to misunderstanding you is a waste of life. It's realizing that not every battle deserves your presence. Not every insult deserves your energy, and not every relationship deserves a second chance. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can wish them well and still never go back. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. The key to reclaiming your peace and power is mastering the art of non-reaction. You don't have to prove that you've changed, your silence will do it for you. You don't have to convince people you're different. Your distance will speak louder than words. The most powerful move you can make is to stop playing the game entirely. Because every time you choose peace over proving your point, you reclaim a piece of your energy that used to belong to someone else. And yes, it hurts. It hurts to walk away from people you once loved, jobs you gave everything to, or environments that felt familiar. But peace requires discomfort. Growth requires loss. You will feel lonely at first because peace is quiet, and quiet can feel empty after years of chaos. But that emptiness isn't a void, it's space. Space for peace. Space for clarity. Space for who you were always meant to become before the world told you to shrink. The people who are meant for you won't make you beg for peace. They won't make you choose between loving them and loving yourself. When you start honoring your boundaries and protecting your calm, you'll begin to attract relationships and opportunities that align with that energy. You'll notice the conversations feel lighter, your decisions clearer, and your heart calmer. That's not luck. That's alignment. You stopped chasing what drains you and started allowing what nourishes you. Reclaiming your peace also means forgiving yourself. Not just for staying too long, but for not knowing better when you didn't. It's about understanding that you were doing your best with what you had, that you believed in potential because you wanted to see the good. Forgiveness isn't saying it was okay. It's saying you're ready to stop reliving it. You can't carry peace and resentment at the same time. One will always weigh you down. So let go, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Your power returns the moment you stop seeking validation from people who benefit from your self-doubt. The moment you stop explaining your worth. The moment you realize that peace isn't found in control. It's found in surrender. You can't control how others act, but you can control how you respond. You can't control what they think of you, but you can control what you think of yourself. And when you stop fighting for people to understand you, you start fighting for your own inner stillness instead. Walking away is an act of self-respect. It's the declaration that you refuse to abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable. It's realizing that peace is not passive. It's powerful. It takes strength to be calm when provoked, to be kind when disrespected, to remain grounded when others try to shake you. It's easy to react. It's easy to lash out. But peace takes discipline. It's the mark of someone who's mastered themselves, not the world around them. There will be people who accuse you of being cold, distant, or heartless when you start walking away from chaos. Don't take it personally. What they're really saying is, I can't control you anymore. The moment you detach from their manipulation, their criticism, their constant drama, You force them to face themselves, and that's uncomfortable for them. But that's not your burden to carry anymore. You're not responsible for their peace. You're responsible for your own. The journey of reclaiming peace isn't linear. Some days you'll feel calm and empowered. Other days the old patterns will try to pull you back. That's okay. Healing is repetition. Every time you choose not to engage, you strengthen your peace. Every time you walk away from chaos without explanation, you reinforce your power. The goal isn't to be unbothered. It's to be unshaken. And eventually something incredible happens. The same situations that used to drain you won't even move you anymore. The same people who once triggered you won't get a reaction. The same chaos that used to pull you in will pass by like background noise. That's when you'll know you've reclaimed your peace. When your inner world remains calm, no matter what's happening externally. You'll stop seeking closure, because you'll realize that peace is closure. You'll stop seeking validation, because your self-worth will speak for itself. You'll stop trying to be understood, because understanding yourself will finally be enough. That's the ultimate freedom, not the absence of conflict, but the ability to stay at peace within it. So walk away, not because you're giving up, but because you're leveling up. Walk away from manipulation, from drama, from anyone or anything that demands your peace as payment for their presence. Because once you choose peace, you don't chase anything. You attract everything. You don't have to scream your worth. You don't have to fight for your power. You simply stand in it, calmly, firmly, silently. That's what real strength looks like. And one day you'll look back and realize that walking away wasn't the hardest thing you ever did. It was the most powerful, because it wasn't about losing anyone else. It was about finding yourself again. And that is where peace begins and where power truly lives. At the end of the day, peace is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build, protect, and choose over and over again. It's not found in controlling difficult people or changing toxic situations. It's found in mastering your response to them. True power is quiet. It's not in proving your point, raising your voice, or forcing someone to see your worth. It's in knowing you don't have to. It's in standing firm in your truth, no matter who tries to shake it. You reclaim your power the moment you stop chasing validation and start honoring your boundaries. You reclaim your peace the moment you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You win the moment you walk away, not with anger, but with grace. Because walking away doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've finally learned. So take your peace back from the hands of chaos. Take your energy back from conversations that go nowhere. Take your heart back from people who only come close to drain it. You don't owe anyone an argument. You don't owe anyone your reaction. You owe yourself your calm. This world will always have difficult people, but they can't touch you when you're grounded in self-respect. They can't control you when you've mastered your emotional state. And they can't drain you when you know how to walk away without guilt. Remember this, power isn't how loudly you roar, it's how calmly you rise. Peace isn't the absence of storms, it's learning how to stand still in the middle of one. And when you learn to protect that calm, when you learn to be unshaken, unbothered, and deeply centered, you become unstoppable. Because no one can manipulate a person who is rooted in truth. No one can provoke a person who chooses peace. And no one can take power from someone who finally realizes it was theirs all along.